Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show. My name is Doug Cunnington, and today we're going to cover some random stuff that's on my mind. I made a list here on a legal pad with some almost legible writing, and some random stuff. Some things are kind of personal finance related, really credit cards and credit card points, which it's something I'm starting to think about a little bit more. And also a realization I had. A buddy sent me a text, maybe more of an acquaintance, sent me a text, and I was like, I really don't want to deal with this. So I'll tell you about that, and then a decision that I made that will solve many other problems. And kind of one area where I like to spend my time is outside and exercising. So I'll talk briefly about that. And one other thing is like what side hustle I would start right now. And the thing is, like, this show started in 2019. At the time, niche sites, affiliate marketing, sites that were supported by organic Google traffic. They ran ads. Maybe they sold their own product. Often it was an affiliate site. I mean, that was sort of like the bread and butter. After some time with like some random topics out there, I realized that the audience usually wanted to hear the success story. So I really leaned into it. I talked to students of mine, talked to other people, some adjacent business models. And then in the last year and a half with AI, or maybe 2 years, AI and Google algorithm changes, and just sort of a shift in the way people consume content, where short form video is a lot more popular and people spend a lot more time doing that than they do reading blog posts. Things just shifted. And I've been sort of unmoored and not certain like what side hustles like folks should approach and spend time on. And part of it is like, I'm not trying to do a side hustle thing right now. So I'm talking to other people about it and I'm observing, and it does give me a much different perspective because like when when I'm doing affiliate sites, creating them and thinking about SEO, and I have a course teaching people how to do it. I mean, I'm kind of a biased person to talk about that stuff. So obviously, if my business model and the shit that I'm doing relies on me believing that that is a good route, then I'm probably going to, push that and view it as a good route. But now it gives me perspective because I'm not trying to start a side hustle. I'm not trying to do a local newsletter. I'm not trying to do social media, blah, blah, blah. I'm just kind of observing and hoping I can, scrape together enough sort of ad revenue and other affiliate revenue in a very conservative way just to cover my costs, which is barely doing. But anyway, the point is, I'll talk a little bit about a side hustle that I might approach. And finally, I was looking back in old content that I've done and created in the past. And one concept I took from Tim Ferriss, or a format of his show, where it was like something I'm excited about, something that I've changed my mind on, and maybe like weird stuff that I'm thinking about or whatever. And Tim did this a couple times with a couple different people, and I recorded a similar episode over on Mile High Fi, my other show, with my buddy Carl Jensen. And this was a couple years ago, so I haven't even revisited it in a while. But there's one thing that I have changed my mind on. So kind of a grab bag. We'll start off with the credit card stuff. So credit cards, I don't do the credit card churning. I don't get a new credit card every 3 months or every 6 months or whatever people do sometimes. I know there's a couple friends of mine that like did this hardcore, and I think they, if I remember right, it was like $40,000 of credit card rewards that they got. And I think they had like over 20 cards in the course of a year and a half or two. And it was a couple, and they each would open cards and they wouldn't put each other as like the co-signer. So they were able to get a lot of cards, which was interesting. And they found it fun. I don't particularly find it fun overall, but I usually will get a card that has good enough rewards and move forward and not pay too much attention. That is generally going to be my approach moving forward. But I recently chatted with my friend Kristen, and she is very much into credit card rewards and basically travel hacking. So that's the main thing people do, travel hacking. So they get points and they allot it, redeem them for flights or hotels or something else, but usually it's flights and hotels. And the primary card that I use is a Chase Inc. That is a business card, and there are different tiers. You'll find this pretty often where you have a credit card and there's no fee. It's free and you earn some amount of points. And then there's usually a middle tier that costs about $100. Typically it's $100 and you'll get more rewards for that. And finally, usually there's a third tier, and typically you'll pay probably between like $300 and $600 or $700, depending on the card. Often you get very good rewards with that. You do need to review your benefits to understand like what you will actually use. But typically, if you're on that top tier and it's going to cost you $400 or $500, you probably get like $300 or $200 worth of like travel credit. So like if you book a flight that costs $300 or $400 on that credit card, usually it's credited. So that erases a good chunk of it, usually more than half. But you got to review the different cards that are available to you. And some cards are, dedicated to a specific airline or a specific hotel chain. So you could be mindful of that. Like if you know that you like to stay at Marriott hotels, then get the Marriott card and you will probably be able to use it very well. You often have sort of a leg up on the upgrades and that sort of thing. A couple years ago, I knew I was going to be flying a little bit more, and I got a United card. It's a card that cost about $100. I think it's like $95. It comes with benefits. Usually these kind of cards have a credit that you can use for like TSA pre-check. TSA pre-check, I want to say it costs around $100. And again, the credit card company will credit you back if you get that. And then that TSA pre-check, it will last, I think, for 4 years. I think it's a 4-year thing. So great value. And just like I said, review the benefits. So at this point in time, I haven't gotten a new card, I think, in like 3 years. I don't find it super fun to do this stuff. However, the best way to earn points is when you get a new card and you get the sign-up bonus. So fairly straightforward. Typically, you have to spend $3,000 or $4,000 in 3 months. So all you need to do is like use that card so that you'll hit the amount that you need to hit. And you have to pay on time. That is a prerequisite. You have to pay on time. You can't be late. If you are late, then like you lose all the points. Like it doesn't work, right? So you have to use credit cards properly. And the way to do it is like never have a balance. You always pay it off in full every month. So what I'm going to do, because I haven't gotten a card in a little while, and I actually have somewhat of a large purchase coming up pretty soon, I will get a new card and I'll put the large purchase on there. I think the card that I'm looking at is probably the Chase Sapphire, I think Reserve. I can't remember. This is one of those 3-tier systems, and I will get the middle one that I think cost about $100. And I think I'm going to get like 60,000 points. Now, the good thing with Chase is you're able to take your Chase points and transfer them to other point systems. So that could be airlines or hotels, maybe even other stuff. But basically, you could transfer your points to another area. For example, I just moved like 4,000 points from my Chase account over to Hyatt, and then I was able to get a room for free. I think I have to pay for my pet to be there, but basically I got a room, and it was money that I was spending anyway. So the way this ends up working is you find the card, like I'll get this Chase Sapphire or whatever. I'll spend the $4,000. It varies between card to card. So I'll spend a few $1,000s. I have a big purchase, so I know that I'll be able to like hit it like that and probably not have to use it again. And then I'll earn those 60,000 points, which is a few days, depending on, where I transfer it to for the hotel. Could be a few days stay. So it's a few $100s, depending on a variety of factors. So that's great. I'll be able to do that. And then the idea is if I wanted to really, get into this, after a few more months, I would maybe get a Hyatt credit card. Hyatt has a good like point value for redemption. So like I get a Hyatt card, I get whatever 50,000 points or whatever their deal is for spending a few $1,000s in 3 months, and boom, I end up being able to stay for free most of the time, which is pretty cool. So the thing is, you have to keep track, and you need to understand like where you need to spend from. And typically what people do is like they'll hit the spending bonus amount, and then they stop using that card. They don't close it. You need to keep it open for about a year or more. You just leave it open. That's totally fine. But they put it away. They don't need to use it anymore, and they switch over to the new card. It can get a little confusing. There's some websites that help you keep track of it. You can keep a spreadsheet. If you don't do it too often, like I was thinking, I typically don't like the song and dance of having to do this opening a card and closing a card and like just all that kind of stuff. So I was like, you know what? I can maybe do this like every 6 months or so and strategically get cards and go from there. Now, there's a whole lot of other information that you might need to know if you want to go down this route, because it can start as simple as what I just said. I'm like, I know I have an upcoming purchase. I can get a card where I get a pretty good amount of Chase points. Chase points are very universal, so I could transfer them to other places, very versatile. And then I just have that one. And once I get the bonus, I'm good to go. The thing is, it can get complicated, and that's why I want to kind of go slow. Then in a few months, then maybe I could do it again. So I will link up, because I recorded actually 2 episodes with my friend Kristen Knapp, and we'll link to it. She goes super in depth, and I ask a lot of questions that, like the knowledge that I'm telling you, it's what I learned from Kristen and a couple other sources that I have listened to in the past. And I just wasn't very driven to do all this credit card churning and travel hacking stuff, but it can pay off if you have a plan on how you're going to approach it. Now, one thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to unlock my credit. So one thing you can do, none of this is financial advice, by the way, it's just some stories I'm telling and some things that I'm going to do. Something that I did a few months back was locked my credit with all of the credit card, reporting companies that are out there. While I hate these credit card reporting companies because they're playing by their own rules and everything, and there's all these data breaches, and that's why you probably want to lock up your credit. So when your credit's locked, you can't open a card. Like no one can. They can't illegally open a card or do something bad out there. Knock on wood, I have not been impacted in that way. I've never had any issues. I think my wife maybe has a couple times. And I know people, they're like, someone's opened a card under my account and blah, blah, blah. So if you lock up your credit, then they can't do that. Check the fine print and all that. But here's the thing. You, these days, can get your credit report for free. I think like once a week, or like it's pretty often. It used to be once a year, but now I think you can get it all the time. So you can go to those credit card reporting companies and put a credit freeze on. So you lock up, you freeze your credit, you freeze things so no one can change it. What you have to look out for, because like I said, I fucking hate those credit card reporting companies. The thing you have to look out for is they create services that sound very close to like freezing your credit. So they charge for that, but you should not have to pay anything to freeze your credit. So make sure if you're doing this, you don't pay anything and you're actually doing like the free, like freeze your credit situation. So do some research on this. You'll be able to find other websites with, more information or whatever, but essentially you freeze, you lock up your credit, whatever it's called exactly. Don't pay for it. But when you need to open a line of credit or you're getting a mortgage or you're opening a credit card like we're talking about here, I'm going to have to go and unlock my credit and then apply, and then I'll lock them back up again. And if I remember right, I think it's very quick to unlock it, like within an hour. You got to look at the fine print, but I think like, you can lock your credit quickly, you can unlock it quickly. So I could do what I need to do and then shut it down once I'm done doing what I'm doing. So anyway, I'm a little bit excited about the credit card stuff. In the past, I did what Kristen, my friend Kristen Knapp, told me is like the worst thing you could do, where I got whatever, I earned like 90,000 points or whatever over the course of a few years. And then I just redeem it for credit on my statement. And that's $900. That's the exchange rate. $900, not bad. But the thing is, she was like, you should be getting like a few cents per point if you use it properly, like on an airline or for hotel points or whatever. And I'm like, oh, so I should have been able to get like $1,800 or $2,000 worth of like hotel stays or something. And she's like, yeah. So, I haven't been doing it in an optimal way, but it has been carefree and I'm not paying too much attention. But with the hotel stays, I'm going to try and do a better job moving forward. Okay. Moving on to the next topic here. I'm going to talk about, I guess, the text that I got earlier today. So someone texted me and they were like, hey, I don't know if you're looking for guests for your show. Again, this is an acquaintance. I know him personally. I've chatted with him. We're not like best buddies or really great friends or anything. I have no issue with him, but basically it was like, hey, if you're looking for guests for the show, then I have a friend who just released a book. You can check it out. And then he was like, I could also be on the show and I could talk about my profession and blah, blah, blah. And I immediately was just like, why'd you send me this email? I lose respect for you, man. So number one, if you're a listener of the show, you may have heard me talk about not liking interviews with authors that are launching their book. So the week that I'm recording this, someone's launching a book and I see in my feed, he's on like 5 or 6 of the podcasts, and I am distinctly uninterested. I don't like that at all. And I get bored of those interviews. Like I will sometimes listen to one of them and then move on, because once you heard one, you kind of heard them all. And a lot of times the authors, they're directed by their publishing company to like be on as many podcasts as they can. And they go into autopilot and, they just give the stories from the book. The interviewers, they read the chapter title. They're like, what'd you mean by that? Those are the most boring interviews, and I fucking hate them. In fact, I really like Seth Godin, and I like Tim Ferriss too. And a few weeks ago, I saw, Seth is back on the show. They like each other. They know each other pretty well. And Seth has a new book coming out. And I think I only made it like 20 minutes in. I found it very boring. Tim sounded uninterested. I was uninterested. While I really like Seth Godin, I think sometimes it's just, I feel like it might be the same book he's writing over and over again. That's pretty harsh. He's done so many books, but I don't know. Am I crazy? Can someone send me an email on this or leave a comment in YouTube or whatever, feedback at Doug.show. But yeah. Is Seth Godin just like rewriting the same book over and over again? I don't know. To be fair, I haven't read the last few. I got a stack of them back there, but anyway, I don't like those interviews. I wish they would just talk. I mean, I would rather just like overhear their conversation about something unrelated to the book. Because the thing is, like, the way these interviews go, they give away the punchline of the book. I don't need to read the book anymore. And if I listen to multiple interviews, then I really don't need to like check it out at all. There's a few authors where I really like them and I will listen to the interview and I will buy the book. I support them as a creator and author and all that stuff. But, you know, I just don't like doing it. So anyway, this dude texted me and I was like, man, I don't want to talk to the author. And I also don't want to interview that guy because like it's totally self-serving for him, right? So it's like, it's to help him get clients. And it's different if I go to someone and I'm like, I think you have an interesting story to tell and I want to see how it goes and I'll promote your stuff. That's totally cool. But when they come to me, I feel like I'm being used. So one thing that I have learned since the beginning of me working for myself, like 10 years ago, when I have a gut feeling, like, I don't know if I want to work with that client, and then I did, it is confirmed that whenever I have that gut feeling, it's always right 100% of the time, which is funny. I told my wife this before I started recording and she was like, so you think you're right 100% of the time? And I'm like, you know what I mean? It's, when I get that gut feeling. So I've had that feeling with interviewees as well. Sometimes they do have a book, or sometimes their pitch aligns with something I was thinking about already. Very rare. I think it's only happened like 1% of the time. But basically, even though I had a little bit of a gut feeling that it wasn't going to be a great interview, their pitch lined up with a conversation in my brain that I was already having with myself. And I was like, we'll give it a shot. They never turn out. I am right when I have that gut feeling. So I was like, you know what? I shouldn't be offended. He's just asking. He took a shot. But also, I don't need to make an excuse or give a reason on why I do or do not want to do something, especially if someone's asking me for a favor. So I just said, no, I am not looking for guests, which is true. At this point, I'm getting like 5 or 8 emails a day for someone trying to be on some shows. And I guess it's cool that I'm like, people are trying to get on shows, but it's just like, I hope that whole podcast guest marketing industry like fucking falls on his face. So they're just polluting the internet. I mean, I hate these automation tools. I just want to sign them up for each other's email list. So they're just emailing each other and not me. So anyway, I declined. I said, hey, I'm not looking for a guest. I don't interview authors that are launching their book. That's a new rule that I have. I'm not going to interview authors that are launching their book, except on the rare occasion. This will be ultra rare, where they're such a big author that I really like them. And they're so big that they shouldn't even really be on my show. But for some reason, they had a lapse in judgment and they were like, sure, I'll talk to you, Doug, which may happen. And I think I'm going to apply this rule to my friends too. So earlier this year on Mile High Fi, a couple people I know, they were like, hey, launching a book, we're doing a push, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. But the thing, like, those interviews were better, but the only like rare exception that I think I will make is if it is a personal friend and we basically do not talk about the book. I'll tell them, hey, I'll give you whatever, 45 seconds. I'll link it. I'll let you talk about the book for like 30 seconds, but I don't want to interview you about your book. For some reason, it's weird. A lot of things don't really set me off, but I think it's the persistence that I am asked or receive emails or whatever. And I'm like, you know what? It's easier for me to just make a rule. If you have a book that's launching, not interested. That said, I got a stack of books back there, several of them. And there's some people that I would love to talk to. Probably their book has been out for several years. So that's something I may do. I mean, they're not doing the push. Maybe sometimes people are like, I'm moving on to my next project. And they're like, I don't want to talk about the old thing. But if they're, well, depending on what they want to do, like some people are like, yeah, I'll continue promoting my other work because I would sure love that to continue selling in the future. So anyway, really weird that set me off. But what it helped me realize today is if I have that gut feeling, it's probably right. And I can just say no. And I don't have to justify it to other people why I don't want to talk to them. Now, typically when I get these cold emails, very easy. I either delete them or more often I mark them as spam, probably 70 to 80%. I mark them as spam. I block the sender so I don't get their follow-ups anymore. If I am charitable, I might reply back and say, hey, I don't take pitches. Remove me from your list. That is probably like 1% of the time. I don't have time to do that, nor do I care. And I hope enough people mark these as spam that those folks have trouble sending emails because they're just polluting my inbox here. So related to this is, another thing where people ask me to do stuff. Now, when I'm in a great position where people are asking me to do things, and one thing that comes up is like software or tools or something that's kind of half-baked. It's not battle tested. It is not like a production level piece of software. And people are like, hey, do you want to check out this tool? I'll give you free access. And in the past, I was like, oh yeah, I will check it out. But now, unless it solves a pain point for me, I'm not going to do it. I used to say, yeah, you know what? Go ahead and give me access. I'll take a quick look. But when I reviewed some of the main points from a book called 4,000 Weeks, I was like, why am I wasting time on something that's half-baked? I don't even give a shit about it. It's not solving anything for me. And if I look at my, limited time on Earth, 4,000 weeks is like how long like the average lifespan is. I'm like, do I want to spend any time doing something that I literally don't give a shit about? Clearly the answer is no. And I still, just this past week, I realized that I sent an email and I was like, yeah, I'll check out the tool. And when I got the email back, I was like, you know what? I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So I have to protect my time. No one else will protect my time. Surely you've heard, it's a cliche now, but it's like, your inbox is like a to-do list for other people, like assigning stuff to you. Like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm pretty feisty today, huh? But I don't know. I don't know why I was like, yeah, I will spend my precious time doing that. Now, the fact is, I was chatting, I had a coffee with someone today and they were like, yeah, are you pretty busy and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I am not busy. I am not busy at all. And it is because I'm very selective on what I'm spending my time on, but I'm going to be even more stringent for this kind of stuff. Cause I caught myself in the last week, I think I was chatting with my wife on a podcast she joined me on. And basically I was like, I get so many emails, and one thing I should batch them a little bit better instead of checking through the day, which I do that. It's a dumb habit. I often will batch the replies. So I see them coming in and it's unfortunately taking up the bandwidth. But basically I was just like, you know what? If I'm complaining about it, like solve the fucking problem. Like don't complain about it anymore. So I appreciate you listening because it's me whining about people trying to get me to do stuff. But at the end of the day, like that's a luxurious place to be in, where people are like valuing my opinion. They want me to test stuff. They want to be on the show. Of course, those pitches are bananas. Like, really, they have no idea who I am. They're fucking scraping a list of podcasts, and they're like, we are just going to spray out emails and pray that some unsuspecting people talk to my asshole author that is paying me like thousands of dollars to automate these fucking emails. So anyway, all right, I'll shut that down. The overall point is, I'll be selective on the things that I'm spending time on, and I'll feel confident in saying no, and I'll just keep it short. I don't need to tell anybody why I need to say no. It's great. Now, what do I like to do? The reason why I don't want to spend time doing things that I don't enjoy is because I want to spend more time outside. I really enjoy just exercising and working out, even if it's not outside. I see some friends. I work out at the rec center, which is like a walkable distance for me. I see friends maybe like every other time that I go there, and like people that I hang out with and have dinner and travel with and stuff like that. So that's cool. You know, we don't have like long conversations, but it's like those sort of like quick interactions, like wave, kind of shoot the shit. And I saw a couple friends yesterday, and then ended up having dinner with them later. And it's an enjoyable thing. And then being outside, I mean, that's fantastic. We're trying to do a lot more of that. In January, we went on a couple weekend trips. I did several days of either snowshoeing or, just being out where there's packed snow and you don't actually need snowshoes, but you still need like spikes and traction control. And it's great. You often don't get a cell phone signal, so you're not distracted by stuff. And it's really been awesome. Now, one thing that I've changed my mind on, which kind of, I mean, it's not surprising, but I've been really focusing on sleep and sleeping better. And I thought I had it like really dialed in like over the last couple of years. One huge thing is a chili pad. I sleep hot. I'm hot all the time. And my buddy Jake, he got a new chili pad, so he gave me his old one. And within a couple nights, like, it absolutely helped me start sleeping better. So I've been testing other supplements and stuff. I listened to Dr. Huberman Lab for a couple years. He gets a little too in depth and a little over optimized. So I've relaxed and I don't actually listen as much, but he gave some great tips on supplements that you might be able to take to improve your sleep. So I have actually like gone down that route, and I take a few things, including Magnesium L-Threonate. We'll link up to the sort of sleep stack that I'm using now. Magnesium L-Threonate, L-Theanine, Apigenin, and the one thing I've added recently is Ashwaganda. I take 600 or 1,200 milligrams of ashwagandha between like 6 and 7 p.m. And it's actually helped me sleep through the night much, much better. And the thing, I didn't change my mind on sleep, but one thing that I've switched up this winter, and I've been a little antisocial, in fact, is, it gets dark earlier, no matter where in the world you are latitude-wise. But, it gets dark earlier if you're way up north, if you're in like New England or whatever, Seattle or Canada or something, like it gets dark pretty early, like 4 or 3:30 or whatever. So anyway, in the winter, this winter particularly, I've been putting on my PJs at like 4, kind of start wrapping up. It gets dark. Ideally, I start reading in bed at like 7:30, and I mean, I'm passing out at like 8:30. It's been awesome to go to bed earlier and sleep in a little bit more. So the two main things that I've changed here recently, I got a better eye mask, and I got that at the end of the summer because the sun rises really early in the summer, and it was waking me up. I'd wake up at like 4, and I'm like, God damn, I actually would love to sleep a little longer. So that mask has helped a lot. I upgraded my mask to something a little more comfy, something that'll stay on my bald head a little better. And it's been pretty awesome. So that was good. And then I heard, I think it was a recent study, but I don't know, but ashwagandha, 600 milligrams, having it in the evening, and then it helps manage your cortisol levels through the night. Thus, you don't wake up through the night as much, which was amazing because I thought I was waking up to pee all the time. But it turns out I think I was waking up and then realizing, hey, I may as well pee. It wasn't that I was like waking up because I had to pee. I was just waking up naturally. But now I'm sleeping through the night much, much more, which is absolutely amazing. Really, really surprising. And then finally, the other thing that I've added is taping my mouth shut. You may have heard ads or heard about hostage tape, which is good branding. And I actually looked at the hostage tape and I want to say it was like $30 or $40 per month or more. I don't know. But as I was looking, I was like, it's not like this is fucking magic tape or anything. Like, why does it cost so much? And of course, it's because they have like big marketing behind it and they're paying podcasters or YouTubers or whoever to talk about the hostage tape. That costs money. Anyway, I did some research and I was like, can't you just use like medical tape or whatever? The answer is yes. So I started using 3M, like, what is it called? Micropore, just surgical tape. And basically they use it to like tape on bandages and stuff, but it's like the sensitive skin type. So it doesn't like mess up your skin too much. And it's been fine. I've been wearing it, for the people on YouTube, you can see my face isn't red. It's not ripping the skin off, blah, blah, blah. I do need to keep my facial hair trimmed a little bit more, which is not a huge deal. If you have a beard, you may have to, take some other action, or some of the tape you see, they're like, oh yeah, it'll stick on beards and stuff. But that's a tough one. You'll have to experiment with your own beard and tape and whatever. Anyway, it's made a huge difference, like me just taping my mouth shut. So I don't know if that's an issue for any of y'all out there, but we were up in the mountains. We were up at a pretty high elevation, 9,000 feet. And in the winter, the heat's running, the air is super dry, and my mouth was drying out like severely. And I was like, I got to do something. So started taping up. Breathing through your nose is healthier. It's been pretty cool. So a lot of optimization. And like, I thought I had my sleep at a really good state, but I improved a couple ways, like being able to sleep through the night, being able to sleep later because of the eye mask, and then taping my mouth shut and breathing through my nose. And that makes, it's more comfortable than having a dry mouth, but at the same time, like having your mouth taped shut. My wife, she has a great laugh at all of that. So the first couple, like the week or two, when I started doing this, I would tape up and then she would try to get me to laugh to like get it to displace. But luckily I was able to hold it in and keep that tape on there. This episode reminds me of like the old school episodes, probably like the first 150 episodes or something back in 2019. Or was just random stuff. I took great inspiration from Bill Burr in the Monday Morning Podcast, where, he's a comedian, so he just talks about stuff, talks to himself for like an hour, and then it's just what he's been up to, where he's been traveling to, occasionally a topic. As the show got bigger, which I think he started in like 2005, like as soon as podcasting was a thing, like he was on there. I didn't start listening until, I don't know, like 2015 or 16. So he already had like about 10 years of stuff. But as time went on, and, he's a very famous stand-up. He's very prolific these days. But then he started answering questions at the end. But all the random stuff, it does remind me of the old days where I would just talk to myself, have a couple bullet points, and just, talk to myself. So as we wrap up, I teased you earlier, I'm going to talk about what side hustle I would work on. And I was going to just give one, but I'm going to give you two. So number one, if I was starting right now, like we're coming up pretty close to like me doing, this stuff for 10 years. I got laid off in 2015. So we're coming up on 10 years here in the summer. And I can't imagine starting over. But if I started over and I didn't have the network that I have, and that's probably one of the more valuable things that I've developed. So if I didn't have the network, two things. So one, I would probably look at the Giftlab course that I mentioned a few weeks back with Emily. That's Emily Odio-Sutton, and that was episode 550. And she is doing print on demand over on Etsy. And I should have investigated a little bit more, because I actually have a print on demand shop, and it was, whatever company. I don't know why I ended up on Redbubble. I think someone told me about it, and then maybe a couple of other people did. So I was like, oh, Redbubble must be good quality. But who the fuck's heard of Redbubble? Right? I mean, I did not hear about it until someone was like, oh yeah, I'm doing my products over there. So Emily was like, yeah, I think it's Printify, and it links up seamlessly to Etsy. The reason why that's a superior idea is there's a marketplace at Etsy. There's people there looking to buy stuff. And I actually have a handful of things that I don't know if people are searching for it or even give a shit, but it's like some of my photography. I love taking pictures. I have since I was in high school. I love the gear too. So I don't actually think I have like a good sort of eye for composition or anything like that. I'm a bit of a hack at it, but I enjoy it a lot. I like the gear. I like, the things that I'm taking photos of. I'm usually out in the wilderness and stuff. And, landscapes, wildlife, some stuff like that. Anyway, the point is, I do have some things on my shop out there, but no one goes to Redbubble. So I've sold a handful of things. I probably made like $10 or something like that. But the thing is, someone's searching for it and they're finding it and buying it. I don't think people are heading over there very often. So anyway, I would do printables sold on Etsy. And I have a ton of ideas. And I was telling my wife, I was like, I need to move the stuff that I have on Redbubble over to Printify and Etsy and have that rolling. Cause some of it's legit. Some of it's okay. So I will do that. That would be the side hustle I would start now. It is absolutely recency bias because Emily is the last person that I talked to about sort of a newer side hustle that sounds like it has a relatively low bar for entry. And I am often concerned with that as far as a defensible business. And she was like, well, if you do have a lot of products, you obviously gain experience doing that, but it is a easy way to get started. She didn't have graphic design experience. She looked at the data that she could look up, but she develops an intuition and she's done really well. So I will actually link up to her course, and she has a free workshop over there. She's actually working with friends of mine, Julie and Cody from Gold City Ventures. But basically the free workshop, it gives you enough information to get started. And if you are listening to this, you probably have a handful of the skills already. So you could probably just kind of get up and running. She lays out the blueprint overall. Blueprint. So anyway, print on demand shit, Etsy, check it out. The other thing that I would do is a little more boots on the ground. And I have thought about doing this in the past because it does tie in photography. I'm pointing at my lenses right over there. And I have a handful of lenses, a couple of camera bodies. I have, one up there. There's one back here. I have a few pieces of gear that I could use in an area that I see. I think I saw some YouTube videos on this, real estate photography. Now, real estate's up and down and, it's cyclical and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, I have the gear and I have the know-how to take photos for, say, Airbnb owners, right? So I would probably focus in on a specific area where I'm like, okay, I can help you get great photos for your Airbnb and charge, a few $100s for that. And the thing is, it would be totally, up to me, how much I wanted to do. So if you just want to do a few hours per week, that would be fine. If I wanted to try and do it full time, which I wouldn't do, by the way, but I could, do as good of a job as I can, networking and being around real estate agents, which it would be a bit of a push. I'm not a super fan of the real estate industry, but I do like photos. And I think once you get the techniques down, it's not super difficult. So I watched a handful of videos. I took some pictures here in my own home, and I was like, oh, I kind of see, they do some exposure bracketing. They're putting together like an HDR type image. So you have like a range of exposures, which I've played around with. It's fairly straightforward. Some of the folks that I watch their YouTube videos on, they're like, yep, this is how you do it. And basically you could hire someone to do the image editing. So I could just take the photos, kind of have like a very templated kind of system where it's like, take these pictures, you do the editing, and then I could double check, make sure everything's good to go, and get it back to the Airbnb owner. I could focus on other stuff, but it seems like there's a lot of Airbnbs. There's probably a reasonable way to get in touch with, property owners, property managers, and say like, hey, I see your images are horrible or they're old, and maybe you want some updated images that look a little better. And obviously pretty easy to like see who has the poor images. And I think, when you're like scrolling through, Airbnb, like you could see the horrible images. So those are the two that I would take a look at. Obviously the real estate photography could, be a very big business, but that is, again, boots on the ground. That is a in real life situation. Giftlab, that is more on the digital side. And obviously like kind of up to you. Like the crazy thing talking to Emily, I think she said she's created 2,000 different products. Now, many of them are iterations on, something that she's created. So maybe she has like, like a coffee mug kind of thing. And then she has like many different designs catering to, different niches and that sort of thing. And I mean, that's a lot. She did 2,000 in like 2 years. So I was like, so you're doing like 3 of these a day? Like, am I doing the math right? And she was like, yeah, I've done a lot of these. So I think certainly viable. She has several like 100 products. I want to say, if I remember the interview right, she's developed like 2,000. I think there might only be like 1,000 or 1,200 that are actually active. So she will like try stuff, and 40% of them are not exactly working. And she's like, oh, you know what? I'll take that down. It could also be like when she got started, the quality wasn't as high. So anyway, if you haven't heard that episode, definitely check that one out. So I'll link up to some credit card options that you might have if you expect to make some larger purchases. It's kind of a slam dunk to be able to hit the minimum spend to get the sign up bonus. But if not, most people, depending on your expenses and where you live and blah, 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 like most people should be able to like use that card 100% of the time and hit the limit that you need to hit in order to get the bonus. Again, it's often $3,000 or $4,000 over the course of 3 months. And usually like grocery shopping, gas, a couple other things that you put on there, then you're going to be able to hit it. If you're taking a trip or like you're going on a cruise or whatever, like get a new credit card and then put, if you're taking the family on a cruise, like that's probably going to be like a few $1,000s. So go ahead and do that. Or if you're buying flights, like go ahead and get a card, and you'll be able to hit that limit in no time. And the links that I'll put in there, they're going to be my referrals. So I get a handful of points, and I should let you know that, but it doesn't cost you anything. Sometimes you get a little extra. So you just have to check out the fine print. And I will also link up to the episode with Kristen where an expert goes through. We recorded 2 episodes. So there's a lot, and depending on when you're checking this out, both episodes might be out. They might not be. The other thing I'm going to do, because Kristen's awesome. She's actually a meteorologist out in St. Louis. So if you're in the St. Louis area, you might know Kristen from, the news. I don't know what station she's on, but anyway, if you're in the St. Louis area, it is Kristen, the meteorologist. Look it up. You'll be able to find her. You'll recognize her if you check out the video. I'm probably going to turn all of her notes, which I think was like 10 pages of notes, to a blog post. So you could review that if you want to go a little bit deeper. But if you check out the episodes, we break it down. I ask dumb questions, so it's easy to absorb. And I think that's it. Let me know if there's any other side hustles y'all are working on, things that you're interested in hearing about. I do love talking to people about side hustles. It's just, I am not doing it personally. I will report back once I get my Etsy stuff rolling. I can envision that being a pretty fun thing to do. So I think that's it for today. If you're not on the email list, you can sign up. Please hop over to YouTube if you're not watching this there. You can subscribe, comment on every video. I don't ask enough. Like the videos, comment. It helps the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. But, y'all are busy. I don't want to get you to, do stuff if you don't have time. But if you got a second, I do appreciate it. All right, that's it for today. We'll catch you on the next episode.